The center is a leading district for innovative teaching and learner success. That's what we wanted to be by 2020. There are 3 themes that surround that. I know you cannot read it from where you are, but if you go onto our school district website, you'll find that one is about student engagement, one is about that sense of belonging and social responsibility, and the other is about preparing our students for that 21st century learner future. We also then decided that we needed to take action on that vision, and it wasn't going to be good enough to sit as a poster on the wall in our schools or in our school board office. So we took that vision and we decided that we would create the action behind it through inquiry. And we knew that we needed to develop inquiry-mindedness because it did not exist in the minds of people. The first person we looked at was Helen Timperley. She's from New Zealand. She's a remarkable author and researcher. Get the book if you can, because it talks about realizing the power of professional learning together. And the second book we used is a book called Spirals of Inquiry for Equity and Quality, written by 2 BC authors. And they talk about how inquiry is really a spiral. You keep coming back into your question over and over again to learn more and more about your inquiry. We knew that we couldn't do that alone at the school district office, so we decided that we needed to have a coordinator of inquiry in every one of our schools. It's not a full-time job, it's a little piece of a job. And together what they do is they work with the teams in their schools to find teachers and administrators to find questions of inquiry that are relevant to their teaching practice and they're curious about. They apply for grants for release time to continue with their inquiry. And in the secondary schools, they might have multiple questions. In the elementary schools, they might have 1 or 2 or 3. These coordinators of inquiry come together once a month and do a lot of sharing of the learning that's going on in each of their schools. And they learn a lot about professional learning together and go back to their schools and share that again. We've also built in collaboration time. So this is the third key element that we found that was absolutely essential. If teachers do not have time in their day to do their work around inquiry and investigating their own practice, it was not going to happen. So we built it in. It costs money, and we were willing to put that in because we believed in it so strongly. And then we decided that we actually needed somebody who knew more about inquiry than we currently knew. So we hired a young man from Calgary Science School. His name is Neil Stevenson, and he's become our district principal of innovation and inquiry. We were so focused on our vision that almost every new title that we develop in our district has something like inquiry or innovation embedded in it. But what he does is he brings that notion of inquiry for teachers and inquiry for students. So we're having it happen within classrooms as well, and he's leading that. He's also amazingly talented with technology, so he's helping us to see how technology becomes embedded in the pedagogical approaches that teachers take. So what we know about our vision is that we wanted this to be a transformational practice in our district, and one such practice was about our Aboriginal students. They were doing better than the provincial average in Delta, but they weren't doing well enough. They were graduating at a 67% rate. The rest of our students were graduating at about a 92% rate. So we felt that that gap was too big, and we wanted to take it on. So what we're doing in that situation is we're having our curriculum embedded in all of our curriculum. So Aboriginal curriculum is being designed by teams of teachers across the district. They're doing a lot of inquiry around it. And that came out of an inquiry question or two. Ultimately, if you don't share the learning together, nothing much is going to happen. So this became an absolutely pivotal piece for us when we realized that teachers were doing amazing things in schools, and the coordinators of inquiries were hearing about it each month, but the rest of us were not hearing about it. So we really decided that we needed to do more about sharing that, and we thought that the digital approach made a lot of sense because we could get more people involved in hearing what we were doing. So making the students' learning visible, the documentation of their learning, making the teachers' learning visible, that 180 days of learning, I'm sorry, I forgot the zero in there, 180daysoflearning.com is a place you can go to, and you can see that every day in our school year, somebody blogs about something that is going on that they're passionate about, that there's innovation behind it, something from one of the inquiries usually. And we also developed a district-wide website called deltalearns.ca where teachers go in, parents too, and students can go in and share their learning and find a place to collaborate together. One of the things that came out of all of this work, many of our schools were involved in conversations around assessment practice. When they found out together that the assessment practice conversation was becoming very big, they got together and did some inquiry questions and focused in on the fact that curriculum, instruction, and assessment go hand in hand, and that if we were going to ignore curriculum and instruction, the assessment conversation was only going to go so far. So they developed this model. It all came out of one large group, 40 teachers working together, talking about assessment. And they created this graphic, which I know you can't see from where you are, but certainly we'll share the slides if you would like them. And so our teachers in Delta have been doing a lot of work in this area, and absolutely it goes back to the whole notion of inquiry, and it actually goes all the way back to our vision.